Filipinas joined the National Geographic Society's list of young explorers for 2020. And one of them is Louise Mabulo, the founder of a social venture aimed at equipping local farmers for success. Let's hear more now from Louise, joining us tonight on The Final Word from Camarines Sur. Louise, great to have you with us. National Geographic Society Young Explorer 2020. How does this honor sound to you?
Well, it's an absolute honor to be part of National Geographic's prestigious society. Thank you so much, Rico, for having me on the show, by the way. And this honor is really, I'm very grateful because being part of this means that I can represent Filipino women and Filipino farmers in worldwide platforms.
You head a cacao project, which is a social venture aimed at equipping farmers for sustainability. How did you come across this love and passion for what you do?
Well, you see, when I moved here to the Philippines, it was a process of falling in love with my country again. And I live in a beautiful agricultural town that's lush here in San Fernando. And the thing about that is when you're so deep into your community and you see all these farmers who are struggling to get by, it's almost such ignorance to not do anything about it. And as a chef and someone who cares deeply about food and our environment, I wanted to do something that would help equip them. And I began the cacao project after my town was hit by Super Typhoon Not 10 in 2016. And it began as a typhoon relief effort. And I knew that we needed to make a real and lasting change for our farmers, especially in a time where our climate is changing.
And this NatGeo Young Explorers platform will really promote your advocacy, which is promoting local Filipino farmers and sustainability. It now brings your local advocacy to the global stage.
That's right.
And you will be getting a grant. You have received a grant of $10,000 US. How are you planning to use this, Louise?
Well, it's going to be strung into my advocacies right now in my hometown, which is to promote regenerative farming and to aid farmers in their climate resiliency in building climate-smart livelihoods, especially now that we suffer extreme typhoons and extreme droughts and intense weather conditions where farmers are the most vulnerable. So it's part of what we already do with the Cacao Project, but it's also kind of helping upgrade the facilities and the resources we have so that farmers are competitive and innovative, and they'll be better positioned for sustainable success, but they'll also be entrepreneurial as stewards, not just to our food production, but to our environment and the creation that they've been tasked to protect.
You know, Louise, when I visited the Banawe rice terraces a couple of years ago to film a documentary, many of the farmers there told me that their children left them to seek greener pastures in the cities. They wanted jobs in, the BPO sector, in marketing, in banking. There seems to be this stigma that if you are a farmer, it's not prestigious and you won't make money. What will it take for the youth to change their mindset that being a farmer can be a profitable business venture?
Well, I think that task falls to every single one of us. You see, we have stigmas that are deeply rooted within our culture in schools, that green jobs, environmental jobs, agricultural jobs don't pay well or don't pay enough. Then we need to actually do our part to support them. We need to change the language in school curriculum surrounding farming and agriculture. We need to make sure that children are aptly protected, whether they're indigenous peoples or whether they're in the provinces or even if they're based in cities, that they have equal rights to our environment and equal rights to a good food production chain, because the average age of farmers right now is 57 years old. And if we don't do anything about it, we'll suffer food insecurity in the next 15 years. So we need to start changing mindsets, starting at the school level and even at the policy level. I was able to contribute to a policy guidance at the ASEAN level, at the joint UNEP, UN Human Rights and UNICEF for children's rights to a healthy environment. And one of the things that I was adamant about demanding was their right to good food, their right to a green land, that they could have forests. And that's what we're hoping to build here in San Fernando. We're hoping to build agroforests so that young people can grow up in a clean and biodiverse ecosystem that also supports their food.
Do you think, Louise, that this pandemic over the past 11 months has also changed the mindset of the youth that, being a farmer is also cool?
Yes, I would think so. I think now that many people are kind of locked down or stuck in their towns, I think that it started to bring their understanding to what's truly important. And that's our environment, that's our essential workers, and that includes our farmers and agriculture. And many people have started taking up the hobby of actually growing their own produce and food and appreciating the value of the marriage and alchemy of nature between soil, air, water, that this is not an easy task, but it's so important. And now young people are starting to feel that sense of gratitude. And I hope that even after the pandemic eases off, that people will still remember that importance, that farmers were there for them when food supply chains were starting to break down in the middle of the pandemic.
And you have a 4-hectare farm in Camarines Sur. What do you plan to do with that? What do you hope to achieve to help farmer sustainability and the community?
Well, with my 4-hectare farm, it's just one example of the many cocoa farms that we're supporting here in San Fernando. And we're trying to build an economic agroforest and give farmers a vision of the art form that it takes to actually produce cocoa and chocolates and other crops. And we hope that through the agroforest that we're building, they can see that they can work together with nature, that it's a biodiverse ecosystem that can create food that is profitable, that is dignified and respectable and cool, and that they can easily use that and integrate that into their livelihoods to become stewards for creation.
You are indeed a change maker, Louise, and how supportive are your parents with your advocacy and being a farmer?
Well, thank you so much, Rico, for that question. I really appreciate that because my parents are rarely one of those few people who are actually supportive of me doing this, even if it's off the beaten path. And many young people wouldn't see this as a place of opportunity. They've actually grown me to really appreciate nature and grow more produce. My dad himself and I go to the farms together, and my mom actively supports me in this endeavor, which I know is quite rare, but I know that as long as you have these strong backing and this privilege to have supportive parents and supportive people, then you might as well take advantage of that to make real and lasting change for your community.
Louise, you are what our community needs today, a change maker who has empathy, tenacity, passion, and an insatiable drive to seek solutions to build a sustainable future and a thriving planet. Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word, and congratulations. Louise Mabulo, one of the National Geographic Society's Young Explorers for 2020.